council meeting to order. Could I have roll call, please?
Certainly. Mr. Schrader.
Here.
Mrs. Schatzinger.
Here.
Mr. Hanson.
Here.
Mr. Gallops. Mr. Morrison.
Here.
Mrs. Kane. Mr. Wirch. Mr. Split.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Lord God, we thank you for the gift of this beautiful fall day, for the gift of time that each person brings to this meeting, for the gifts given to them as they represent our community. And for our community, we pray this evening, Lord, and we are humbled before you as we do your work, working together. Bless all that happens here this evening. May we be responsive to your guidance within us. We ask these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
First item, I'll seek a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Howard and seconded by John. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Next item, is there any public comment? No public comment. And then we're on to the staff reports and standing committee reports. Is there a motion to accept the entire list as published?
Make a motion, we approve.
I'll second it.
Moved by David, seconded by Jolene. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved. Next item is the consent calendar. Is there a motion to, John?
Did we pull number 3?
Number 3. I'd like to make a motion to approve the other 2.
Yes.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve items 1 and 2 on the consent calendar. Any discussion on those 2 items? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving items number 1 and 2, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item number 3 on the consent calendar.
The reason I pulled it is just to clarify that we approved it pending the proper height of their ice cream cone sign off the sidewalk, which is 84 inches. I just want everybody to know that it has to be 84 inches off the sidewalk.
And what's the current height?
67.5 inches right now.
Okay.
All you're doing is clarifying that was the certificate of appropriateness had a condition placed on it. by
Yes.
the Historic Preservation Commission, and it's sent to the Ripon Council with that recommendation, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
So that is the matter that we're acting on this evening, is that approved subject to the raising of it to 84 inches.
Is there a motion to approve this item with that contingency?
I'll make the motion.
Second it.
Been moved by John, seconded by Ben. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving item 3, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved. All right. Next item on the agenda is the city administrator recruitment schedule. We have a couple people here for a presentation from the Public Administration Associates. I'd like to introduce yourselves and give us your presentation.
Good evening. We're with Public Administration Associates, and we very much appreciate your confidence in our firm to do this important recruitment. My name is Chris Swartz. I'm a partner with PAA, and
My name is Darrell Hoffman, I'm an associate with PA.
and we've been part of PA I've been for a couple years, and we've both been city managers and administrators for, between us, about 70 years between. So we're into our new endeavor, and we're really enjoying this, and we think we can recruit someone that will be a good fit for Ripon. What we want to do to start off is we put an agenda together, and the first part of that is really, I provided you for 2 separate timetables. As you, because we're kind of in a tweener period, we don't like to recruit over the holidays. Especially, the December 10th through the 1st, we find that that's just such a dead time. So one of the alternatives has the recruitment period where we, go out and advertise and call people and actively recruit during November and part of December. And then we do most of the, I would say, the interview process and that part of the process, the selection process, in January. And we felt that that would be a good alternative for you. But we also gave you another alternate, which was really doing most of the recruitment in the January period. As you see, late December and January. We believe that first alternative is very workable. It gives you flexibility, 1. 2, it assures that you will hire someone and have someone in place by the March 15th deadline, or even prior if you. So we think it also gives you that flexibility. If you don't find anybody in the first round that you don't like, you still have time to do the process again. So we think that gives you the most flexibility, and it gives you a good period of recruitment, active recruitment. So one of the first things we'd like to do, and I could go through, I'll go through the process as part of this schedule, if that's all right with. And I'm going to go through option 1 because I'm going to talk about the process as part of that, because we'll make some decisions on that later. So one of the first things we do is to draft the position announcement and the position profiles. I gave you a draft of those. There's some extra. We need some work on those, of course, after discussion tonight and later. And we after, excuse me, so dry. And by 11/2, we do the announcements, which are placed online in all of our sites, which is the International City Managers Association, the Wisconsin City Managers Association. Usually we hit Iowa as well, even though we do the international, which goes to everybody. We do the neighboring states, and we might do, we'll maybe talk about it, the Towns and Gowns Association. It's a lot. It's a you know what that is. It's that relationship between the city and the college in their community. And sometimes we recruit there as well for a college town. So as part of that, we also target people who may fit here in Ripon, and we'll make a lot of phone calls to people we know in the Midwest, and even from people that we think might be interested in Wisconsin. People who moved out of state but they want to come back. So we target personal letters and phone calls as well. And so we also do a video with the mayor doing I don't know if you saw that in our proposal. We gave you a link. We have the mayor do a presentation, a video, 2.5, 3-minute video that we place in several areas as well on a YouTube channel. I'm just going to take this down a little bit. Do you mind? Just getting a little warm here. So if we, on 11/2, if we do the announcements and the recruitment, we're trying to get the applications back by 12/4. So it's basically a month that we do that active recruitment and advertising, which we find is good. Too long, it doesn't really help, we found, so a month is usually the perfect time. When we get those applications back, we present to the board summary resumes of all of those candidates that we get in, and we rank them by qualified, meets all the qualifications that you set forth. Medium group is, well, they meet some of the criteria, but we think they're not fully qualified, but we think they'll fit into this organization. And then we give you kind of like people who will not fit or who are not qualified. So we give you that, and that is on 12/8. We call it the mini resumes. And from that, we ask you to select 6 or 10, thank you, 6 or 10 finalists. And we usually, we like to get, we like to get 8 to 10 is the best, but, we'll go a little lower, a little higher. And then what we ask them to do, the 6 to 10, is to present a video. They make a video, send it to the city. It's a 6-minute, it's 6 to 8 questions we give them, and have them prepare a video sent to us that we review with you on, I think we'll do that in January under this schedule. And from there, and we also do the reference checks as part of that. So we'll do 6 to 10, depending on your choice, full reference checks. And we usually 5 to 6 references we check. We do a 4 to 5 page report detailing how they have performed in other communities, how they fit. It's a very, and we gave you a copy of the sample of that. And at that point, you will make your choice to go down to 4 or 5 finalists. Usually 4 is what is very manageable. We don't like to go 3 in case one drops out, which happens on a regular basis. So we like to have 4 finalists, and we would do that in, let's see, when is that? Videos by 1/12. You'll review those videos and make your selection. And then we have, after that, the week of 1/25, we will do the finalists will come to Ripon for the interviews, the assessment center with the city council, staff, and community, which we'll discuss on how you want to handle that. I'm just trying to give you an overview of the process. And then hopefully that day we will, that evening, that day, you'll select your final choice, talk about contract, things of that sort, kind of all the housekeeping. And your next board meeting, we approve the candidate for the position. So that's a big picture overview of the process. Does anyone have any questions on that process? We'll go into some details in a minute.
I am so sorry because I greatly respect you, but later we're going to be voting on something to say, I guess my point is before we ask questions, there is a bubbler right out here. I don't know if that would allow you to, I know your voice has been giving out, and that
Yeah.
might allow you to wear your mask a little more.
Yeah.
It is something we're going to be voting on to allow masks.
Sure, no, this is fine.
So
The lozenge help.
But there is a bubbler right up
I
here.
understand. This is good. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for understanding.
Thank you
I
for
think that in the kindest
understanding.
way I can.
I do have one question for you. On this first option for the timeline, there's about a 1.5-month gap between selecting the finalists and the position starting. Does that cause concern for candidates having to wait that long to start a position?
That's an excellent question. We thought of that, we discussed it. Because most of that's over the holidays, I don't believe that's a problem of people hopping off the, like, well, it's too long, I can't wait.
But the month and a half period I refer to is between when the interviews happen in person and then the position starting, it's a little less.
Oh, I see, you meant when,
So once we select that person,
well, usually they have to give a 30-day notice.
okay,
30, 45 at most. So it's a little bit longer than usual, that's true. I think people would maybe appreciate that time. I don't think it's a detriment, no.
okay.
Have any comments on it?
As an example, many professionals have employment agreements. I had it as an example, a 60-day notification requirement. So 30 is probably minimum. Like I said, mine maybe was an extreme, I had to get 2 full months.
Is that,
Yeah.
So just for clarification, Laura, you're done on 3/15, or are you, I don't pin you down
April.
on what date here.
April 7th is my last day of work, but we wanted a little bit of overlap.
Perfect, that's what I was driving at.
Right.
I thought we intended to have a little bit of overlap, so that there'd be some passing of institutional knowledge to this individual. Thank you, that clarifies it.
and I believe your RFP asked for March 15th state starting date.
Perfect. Thank you.
You can look at the other option. I'm not going to go through it in the detail, but you can see that it's a real tight one, just in the opposite. That February is real tight in order to meet the 3/18, 3/15, I think, date. So that's why we kind of are looking toward the first one. But we wanted to give you 2 choices, just because, I don't know what your schedule is like, if that fits in, so. Any comments on that first?
You did mention some of the areas that you could, oh, you have your hand up. Some of the places that you could advertise, you mentioned, for example, towns and gowns, and you looked at us sort of, as a maybe. As I understand it, it'll be the same cost to the city if you do advertise there.
Yes.
So how do we go ahead and formally say, yes, let's go ahead and advertise in all places that we can?
You just did. That's what we're here for tonight, that's a suggestion. We'll find other places too, like we do put into the ICMA, but then we put it into the, what is it? The
Municipality.
No, but we do that too, but for the ICMA, but for the professional women in city management.
Oh, I appreciate that.
We put that in there as well. So I didn't get into that detail, but it's always good, because many communities want to show that we at least try to recruit both men and women.
Speaking of diversity of male and female, what about places of diversity of other areas? Are there other outlets that also focus on other areas of diversity, such as race?
Well, sure, the ICMA has a Hispanic sector and a professional black ICMA. So we can do both of those as well. It's like a $35, and that's part of our cost, so we can do that. And we usually do.
Okay. Can I formally request and say thank you for adding those?
Of course.
And I want to say that I do appreciate that you do know that we are a college town, that we do have a college that we have a good working relationship with, so that the fact that you mentioned that the towns and gowns, I appreciate.
If
Would
there's-
you like direction at this time on the calendar, draft calendar of events?
I think that would be very helpful till we go into our next phase of the discussion.
Okay.
Move to approve option number 1.
Second.
Moved by Al, seconded by Howard. Any discussion on the moving to approve option 1 calendar?
Just want to say as sad as it is to see Lori have to go for retirement, for bigger and better pictures for her. Kind of looking forward to getting this done and getting this going, so, at least from one council member. Thank you for all your years of service and helping us. I know I've only been up here a few short years, but it's been a pleasure so far to work with you, and I look forward to the next few months.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving calendar option number 1, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll use option 1 calendar.
Excellent, thank you for that.
Thank you.
The next, if on your, agenda that we provided to you, so the dates on here, and I don't know if we have to do this evening with everyone looking at their calendar, but we can, to see if those dates for your meetings are fine. The only one that I'm on 1/12, like I said, it's two and a half hours, and I believe I have that at a regular board meeting, is that correct? On 1/12? Just want to make sure. I try to just do your regular board meetings, but, you know, you never know if you know, that is a pretty detailed and longer meeting if you want a special meeting. And I believe 1/12, I tried to do that on your regular meeting, just because as a target.
Said Al's got something to say.
Perhaps we could,
That's the
Good.
second Tuesday.
we could designate that meeting as a committee as a whole meeting solely for the purpose of recruitment, and then if there was another matter that needed to come before the city that was, you know, needed timely action or whatever, we could call a special meeting to accommodate that.
Makes sense. So that they can kind of target dates, and you're targeting a date that
It's
everybody
always
else.
good to target dates, but, you know, we have to be flexible as well because of, you know, I have eight
But
council
I think the
members.
council appreciates you using the time that they have set aside to make sure that they're all available for that,
Right.
that day for sure.
Well, we'll leave these for now, and as we go, we can always adjust them a little bit if you know, the mayor or council president or council members want to look to change that. We're open to any change you are as well. Okay.
Chris, before we move
Sure.
on, as long as people have their calendars out, do you want to talk about the day-long interview assessment center?
Sure, or 2 days, depends on how
2
we,
days, right.
what do we have that for?
The week of the 25th of January. So the last week of the month of January.
No, how's it? Yeah, okay, well, I was kind of ripping. So that's for the assessment center, and the interviews. And that's, I put the week, thank you, Daryl, I put the week because we don't know yet if it's 1 or 2 days. We're gonna discuss that this evening. And that is a special, time. Usually, people like to do it on Saturdays because, people work during the week. I don't know how flexible your council is here and the mayor here about, you know, doing things on Saturdays or people taking off work for a day. You know, I'd like to kind of get the feeling of the board on that.
At least from my perspective, I'm medical, so if I ask off a few months in advance, I should be able to get it. We just gotta know exactly what days we have to ask off for.
So we could not, you prefer during the week if you can versus a Saturday in general?
Flexible for whatever.
Myself, I'm probably more flexible for a full day on a Saturday, but I can make weekdays work.
Yeah, I would take a Saturday.
Same here.
Yes.
Like
Consensus.
consensus on leaning towards a Saturday at least.
We'll revise the schedule to reflect that date. The other day, we were going through with the council, and we ran into deer hunting. So a few people who deer hunt, so we had to kind of change that around a little bit. I think we'll miss that here pretty much.
Few of us, I'd be gone.
Okay, so one of the things we also like to discuss at this point is participations by council, the mayor of the council, and obviously the community. So there's a couple things we use on the assessment and the department heads. So we have, during the interview process, this is for the week of the 25th, I'm talking about her, that's Saturday now. We have an interview, obviously the council does that, mayor and the council does that. We recommend that usually your staff, key staff people are involved on that day to do what we call a conversation. It's kind of an interview with the candidate, each candidate, but it's more informal than formal. So we'd like some direction if you think you would like to, have the department heads as part of that
Then you would
process.
think that you'd look at Friday for that. If they're, I'm assuming you're bringing these people in for an overnight, or is that not the usual?
Usually we do it in tandem with, one person will do the interviews with the council while the other is doing.
Move to the other side.
And
Okay.
then we also do some EQ, emotional intelligence as well, on testing on that day and some writing exercises.
You get it all done in one day.
We usually do.
Fair enough.
We're very flexible though, if you,
I just have seen it in other communities where they bring them in. They let
we
them
can
talk
do
to the
that as
department
well.
heads, they get to watch people working, and
right? Because we're
they
here,
get to know the community as well if they come in rather than just a one-day experience. But
that's up to you. That's,
Yeah.
a lot of bigger cities do that.
yeah, and I know that some will come in voluntarily on their own to get ahead of it. I'm sure of that.
And that's fine. We're flexible that way.
Yeah.
Often, as part of our assessment interview process, as you mentioned, they'll drive up or drive over, say on Friday afternoon. As part of the formal structured process, we have a tour of the community,
There you go.
whether it's with a council or tag team with a management team member. Again, with COVID, it creates a little bit of a challenge.
Yep.
Done the 2 cars with cell phones, so, but
Again, I was thinking that same concept, and whether you utilize that to meet the department heads, could introduce them.
But overall, you would like the department heads as part of the process, and then we can talk about the
I would
logistics of that.
For sure, I don't think there's any question that.
Okay, good. That's as usual. The other one is,
So just to clarify, to
Sure.
have on our calendar, and I'm also keenly aware that we are being interviewed just as much as we're interviewing
course
the
you are.
candidate. So we're saying that we have the best chance of them connecting with our department heads, which I agree is very important, on Friday. So should we have on our calendar both are we looking at the 29th and the 30th of January, just so we have that? Is that the dates?
I think it's the 29th is a Saturday, so the 28th.
and 29.
No, I'm sorry, the 29th is a Friday.
Yeah.
The 30th is a Saturday. You're right.
Okay. So but these are the dates we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Al?
We also have some flexibility here, okay? We haven't talked, all the department heads aren't here. What is their preference? If we know well in advance, maybe we could do this on a Friday. I don't know, but is that something we have to decide right now? Or is that something we can get input and have in our radar that we've got to figure this out?
Definitely flexible on those dates. We give you these, and we're committed to having a schedule that best fits your needs. And we like to set some sort of a set dates, but we're flexible based on the needs of department heads and things of that sort. Great point. So the other, besides department heads, what we've done in the past, and COVID has really, COVID has put a damper in this thing, but what we've done on usually Friday evening, if it was on a Saturday, for example, we invite certain community sectors could be the college, the chamber, the general public, whatever you decide, and within a manageable number of people, we have kind of a candidate form, and candidate elected, but for the city administrator, which entails usually some snacks in an informal setting. And you may have done this in your, I don't know if anybody's been through this process before. Did you do this aspect of it?
Yes.
Okay.
One time we did.
Okay. And so that's really up to you. COVID is, like I said, we haven't done this since COVID because it's not practical. So, but.
Have you hosted perhaps it sounds funny, but it works, a Zoom social? Is that something that you
Well,
could
we haven't had that request. We offered that, so we haven't done that. That would work as well, where you take, you have to limit the number of people. You know,
sure.
Where if you do it live, you could, probably do up to 50 we've had. And we usually put tables around, and we have 3 stations, so to speak, and they rotate with the candidate. So the candidate sits there, and then the other folks from the audience ask questions to each of them. But we could probably figure out a way, we've kind of talked about that. We have a way we can do Zoom, but we believe you have to limit the number. So sometimes we talked about each council, the mayor of the council would select 1 or 2 people to do it, to be on that. Or, let's say we have, you have 9 of you, right? So maybe you have 9 people, or, because I think 18, what do you think of that?
I think it's still manageable.
18, you know how that is with the Zoom, it gets a little difficult the more people you have, but.
The bottom line is, it sounds like you're flexible and willing to work with us.
Sure.
Depending on the situation.
But all the direction we need to know is if you want to have something with the community, that's what we need to. Because a lot of communities are just saying, no, we're not interested now, But some communities, really like to have that community input.
So when we're back before you, December 8th, we'll talk a little bit more about that and
Yeah.
finalize the process at that
We
time.
can do that. We wanted to make you aware, if that's what you want, is some sort of community aspect, we'll make that work in person or by Zoom.
I'll just state right now that I think if we don't, we're selling ourselves short, and if other communities aren't, good for them. Maybe we will stand out in a positive way.
Okay, and that's usually the participation that we have. The last thing under the recruitment selection process is what we do usually is the interviews, as we discussed. We do the interviews with staff or the community. And then we have a writing exercise, which we think is important, and usually we do a topic that you select. We give you 3 or 4 topics that you select for, for the candidates. The final 4, these are the final 4. It's a writing exercise that has something to do with some local issue, okay? So we think that's important to show their writing skills, see if they understand, and it says a lot about the candidate. So is that something you want to make sure we do?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then we have an emotional intelligence test that we have them take, and we report that back to you as well. You want to just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, PA has a contract with a firm. This is all done electronically. They get a booklet on emotional intelligence, something they get to keep. In the back is an individualized password, and roughly 5 to 10 minutes it takes to go through this. They answer online a series of questions. Sometimes the questions are asked in different ways, similar meaning, but ultimately it gives you a sense as far as, again, the emotional intelligence. What we found through our research that satisfaction by the employer, satisfaction as far as relationships with management team and general employees, the higher the emotional intelligence rating, typically the higher the success. We've sat through some interesting assessment centers and looked at the scores. And again, it seems as if oftentimes those people that have a higher emotional intelligence tend to rise toward the top as part through the assessment center process. Oftentimes, we get to the point where you as a group identify your top one or two, and then at that point, we reveal the emotional intelligence, and usually the top one or two are also the ones that had the highest score. So it tends to go hand in hand, and you can get a sense, and also even with the management team, the conversation, being able to relate well to others, it comes through, it comes out. So again, as Chris mentioned, emotional intelligence, written exercise, conversation, the interview with you as a council, we provide you with a list of questions. We typically, ultimately, we want to narrow it down to roughly 20. Oftentimes, it's a pretty fast pace. We don't want people to get into the weeds. We cover a lot of different areas, again, that you've selected. So at some point, we will provide you with a master list, and you can check which ones you think are more relevant or of interest to you.
And so the next thing is there anything else that you want that we did not mention as part of the assessment center, the assessment of the candidate, the 4 finalists we're talking about? This seems to have worked for us over the many years we've done this, our firm.
I think that's why we're hiring you.
Yeah, I understand. But someone always has sometimes people.
No, I appreciate that.
So I always like
I
to
think
ask.
you're demonstrating that you've got a handle on this, and for the most part, you're walking through it, things that you've already tested.
Of course.
And work for you, and that's why we're looking for your expertise.
As long as we're here as part of that process on that Friday or Saturday, either that day or prior to, typically we share a draft boilerplate employment agreement to make sure it's something that you're comfortable with. If there's anything unique regarding benefits that you want to offer or things that you do not want to offer, it's good for us to know up front. And ultimately, we hope to cover that and to a certain degree finalize that again in concept that day. And then, as you know from this agenda, a week or two later, then we come back and officially approve that document and make that selection.
That was good.
Can I ask, what are some, you said if there's anything unique for a benefit, is there something you've seen from other communities that they've offered that has made people say, wow, I want to apply?
A lot of money. Frankly, it's silly, but yeah, that's, a dollar is important. But we have, for example, some communities that I've worked with, recently Port Edwards, for example, they gave a $4,000 bonus, an annual salary increase every year, $4,000, to move to the community, rather than, to move to the community. Instead of getting $84,000 annually, they got $88,000 if they did that. So that's one unique thing, but that's about it. I'd say, I think you were more talking about if your benefits were different than we're used to putting in we usually reference your benefit book, so so it's usually the same.
Oftentimes, depending on where the candidate is in their career, they may be asking for an additional contribution into a deferred compensation plan to be able to, again, make headway for that eventual decision that Lori's already made. Issue of, an allowance, monthly allowance versus a car being provided, the range as far as, vacation or PTO, those sort of things.
Yeah, the younger they are, the more vacation they want, is what we found, so, which you all know that. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
We're going to go, Daryl's going to talk a little bit about our assessment tool that we want to use to determine what are the skills and attributes you want from the candidate and the personality type. So Daryl's going to talk a little bit about that.
Including your packet is a handout. It's a stapled two-page document. The top page is important experience and personal qualities that you'll include in your next city administrator. There's a list of roughly 20 different experience qualities. What we're going to be asking is for you to rank those that you feel are important, and of those that you feel are important, list them from 1 to 5. So again, we're looking for you to really narrow in on 5 of those 20, and then of those 5 that you select, identify 1 through 5. On the second page is personal qualities, such things as emotional intelligence, leadership skills, listening skills, communication, team building, organizational accomplishments, those sort of things. Again, picking the top 5, and then a 1 to 5 of those which are important to you. We identified Chris as the contact. His email address is on it, at the bottom, so please return this document to him. I don't know if you want to do it individually or give it to Lori. It's up to you. What I'm asking for to keep the process moving, Monday, the 19th. If you could get them returned by then, it'd be appreciated. Is there anything on here that you would like that is missing? Should have asked that up front. Either an experience, type of experience or qualities of the candidate. Earlier, we talked a little bit about towns and gowns. I don't know if that's something that you would actually like to have on the list, very specifically, and whether that's something that
Experience in a college town.
Right.
I guess it's sort of community marketing, but I'm thinking more community relations, fits in there more so, right? Experience in certain, So, actually, it would help me to know how, these areas that are selected, does that mean that this goes out in the position description, or how is this used?
Go ahead, Daryl.
Yep. Timing of your question is perfect. I'm going to talk a little bit about the job announcement and the position profile. Chris has, putting this together, toward the back of this document that is Ripon's logo on the front. It's second from the logo. Second page, there's an area here as far as personal qualities as well as skills and past performance. So we would, based upon the outcome of your check marks and ranking, we would specifically tailor this section of the profile, add those elements that you've identified are important.
Anything we yet put in yellow is something we will change. This is some boilerplate from a past recruitment, but that's how we use it, where you see it in yellow on both documents.
So answering the question more directly, yes. Of those 5 that are checked by most of your fellow council members, we do tailor and add that to the job announcement.
And that's something when we do, I mentioned we do some very proactive recruitment by letters and phone calls. That gives us some direction of who to call or who not to call, or who not to send a letter to. So we try to target with this as well. It helps us target candidates.
Would this assessment, would it be appropriate to send these to the department heads and the city attorney with the same expectations? It'd be interesting to see their perspective also.
We just did Jackson, Village of Jackson we're doing now, and we did the department heads as well. And Hortonville, doing up in Hortonville, and we did that as well. So.
I'd personally like if we could do that.
Makes sense.
I don't know about the city attorney though.
I know they're all very, very busy, but take just a few moments to, and perhaps they could turn those into Lori, and then Lori can distribute them, Lori can collect them, and
I can work with you, Lori, on that.
send
Yep,
them in.
absolutely.
That'd be great, thank you.
Good suggestion.
Is there, I guess there's not really a time where we talk about this as a group, is there? You know, for example, I think of, so I may think public safety is very important, but I also know that our public safety is quite strong and robust here in Ripon. And so I may think maybe I should look at places that aren't as strong, that we want to build as areas that I may select, or I may say, well, since we have a strong area in public safety, of course we want someone who's gonna work well with one of our strengths. I mean, and that's just, you know, I'm sure there's other ways to also look at this. How, I mean, we could be all over the board, I suppose, as a group.
I will say, when I went through it, I personally used the approach of where we should be building as to what we're looking for. Because like you said, we do have a strong public safety already. I don't think we need to build too much on that, but other areas we do need to build on.
And one thing, when we get this back, we do send it back to the administrator. We're fortunate to have her right now. Some communities already don't have her doing this, so we usually work with the mayor, council president, or village president. So we would send that back. I do a summary of that, of the results, and I could send it to Lori, who can send it out to you for comments. But we don't want it to drag out so long. You know, that's the only problem. We could give you a deadline to, you know, to just react to it, and that helps us as well. So once I get that, if you give it to us on the 19th, by the 20th, I will get something back to Lori to distribute to you about, this is what you said.
I don't know if this sounds like this is the final document, but is it possible to change community marketing or to community relations? Personally, when I think of marketing, I think of something that's like being put at somebody, you know, it's just at. I think of relations as a back and forth.
Let me just look. Yep. Let me just look though if there is something.
I don't necessarily think our city needs someone who's going to market at us, but do I want someone who's going to have a back and forth and be involved in the community? Absolutely.
Yeah, we could do that.
I don't know what others think, again, if you've used this in other cities, obviously, but for me,
There is an opportunity for comments, though, also,
There is another.
where you could indicate, you know, something like you're talking about, Jolene, or what have you, so.
I guess so if I'm the only one, well, I guess we're hearing it now, but if I'm the only one that writes that, others aren't gonna think to write that there, so then it probably won't come to the top.
We can add, that's a really good point. I thought we had something, we have intergovernmental relations. That's what I was thinking of. But I can add that and send it to you tomorrow. Email it to Lori, you'd have to distribute it. That's what the board
And on
wants.
the personal qualities, the open and positive communication skills, does say public marketing and relations.
Yes,
I
you're right.
see, I see, okay.
Yeah, I knew
Thank
I
you.
saw it.
Thank you.
We think that's important. So we'll get it to Lori for the department heads. And do you have this electronically? Lori, you sent this. So you have this all electronically so that you can just use yours, or do you want to resend it to them
I'll
as an
resend it.
individual piece?
Yep, I'll resend it.
That usually works best. Or else it's among your whole packet. Sorry about that.
Okay, are we ready to get into item number 3?
Okay,
Position profile?
sure. As Darrell mentioned, on your, and we'll go into the salary on the 4th point. So what we do for the announcement is we put a position announcement out, which is the short one, which I've already drafted, except for your input where it's yellow. And then the position profile, which we try to give as much information about the community. This is kind of our marketing piece, if you will. And so what I like to do either during this evening's meeting or comments through Lori is if I missed anything I'm not talking about what's in yellow, I'm just talking about the highlights of the community. There's some blanks to fill in that Lori's going to help me with, but, you know, did I capture the community well is something I just always like to get input on. I always love doing this. I come to the community, I do a tour, I go research all the documents, and I kind of come up with this. And you can also email me as well, comments, which I can incorporate. I don't know how you want to, Mayor, I don't know if you want to do this tonight, or you want to just have someone give me some comments, which I can incorporate it.
I think it's safer to let everybody take a look at this. There's a lot here. And then set a period of time that they give their comments to Lori.
That'd be beautiful.
They
We've
could
done that most of the
clean
time.
up
That's how it usually
and
works.
fill in the blanks, and I assume Lori,
We want to set that period of time for the,
yeah, for comments
Monday,
to
like,
come in.
is that acceptable? If we have any comments on this,
Yeah.
submit them at the same time as,
Yes.
Monday, the 19th?
Yes. The other aspect, if you look on page 7, the last page, future challenges and opportunities. As I mentioned, we would like to also know, what are the things that, the biggest challenges you have, the biggest opportunities you have? We really like to put them in here, because I think that's one of the most important. What are you looking for to accomplish it? You know, you're revitalizing the downtown, for example. You're redoing a huge transportation project in the future. You know, those types of things. You're expanding your industrial base. What are your challenges? What are your opportunities? So, and maybe at the same time, you could let us know that. Sometimes we do that at this meeting. Mayor, you let me know what you want to do on that as well.
I'd certainly like to have a few days to
Okay,
work on that
beautiful.
as well. I mean, there's some things that come to my mind immediately, but
Okay,
everyone like to put some thought to that and
great.
submit
So by
that
the
as well.
19th, if you can add to those as well, I'll complete that and then get it back. I'll turn that around relatively quickly for you.
Is it possible, I mean, obviously, this is personal to Ripon, and so I think in some regards, we don't want to be biased towards what other cities are. That being said, sometimes having fresh eyes, bringing in other people is what is helpful. When it says opportunities, is it possible to give some example of opportunities that other cities have identified?
Like right now, we could, yeah.
It doesn't have to be now, but I guess
No,
in
we
the
could-
exchange of the emails that you, if you're going to give us.
I mean, usually the opportunities matters. What are things that you want to, you're geared up to do, for example. There's an opportunity to, this doesn't apply to Ripon, but, you know, the opportunity that you have a lot more potential for revitalizing your downtown. That would be an opportunity that many other communities mention. Develop a regional park, for example, was another community that they thought the parks were used so much regionally that should be enhanced to make it a tourist opportunity. That was one community said that. So it's looking at, you know, those are what we say opportunities. And obviously challenges, aging housing is a challenge that you're trying to address. You have several programs that you've been, have been implementing. So obviously that's one of your challenges.
I happened to bring my folder for Village of Jackson, or our recruitment efforts. Their future challenges and opportunities are as follows. Implement the Village of Jackson comprehensive plan, continue to implement their opportunity analysis and redevelopment plan. They just completed the last 6 months. Village-wide redevelopment effort. More intergovernmental agreements with the neighboring town of Jackson. Manage a new municipal complex projects that's under construction. It consists of Village Hall, Police Station, and Fire Station. Oversee a more proactive leadership of economic development priorities, which include several TIDs. Build a strong municipal management team, foster professional development, and create retention initiatives. Be a community leader, establishing a positive community perception of the position of the village administrator. Second to last is continue to develop strong partnerships and collaboration with other units of government and community stakeholders. And last was provide leadership required for continued long-term financial stability.
You could send those out to everybody. I think that would be very helpful. If you could email
Sure.
them.
Sure, we'll
I think that would help.
get you
for you.
2 or 3 community examples.
Thank you.
Great.
And so last, but very important, is we did provide you with a summary of similar population communities. So a range of 6,000 up to 9,500. Mostly these are communities that are separate and not really suburbs. Where there's a couple that are more metropolitan, located in a more metropolitan area. You can see from the salary range that it is a wide range. Just as a heads up, second to the bottom is Plymouth. That position is high because that person also is the utility director, an electric utility. And so that's, there's a premium associated with that. So that, you sort of kick that one out in my mind. And that makes the range not as large. Chris, in his profile, position profile, did identify in the top sheet possible range.
Straw man for you to
Yeah,
discuss?
typically it's roughly 20,000 is what we like to see. It gives you a lot of flexibility. Ultimately, if you're getting someone maybe toward the beginning of their career or a few years in versus someone maybe who's more seasoned, it just gives you more flexibility. It also tends to help in recruiting as far as getting a larger number. If you only have, say, a 5,000 or 10,000 spread, it just doesn't give much flexibility and often sends a message to the candidate as well. So we're hoping to open up the discussion regarding the survey we completed and ultimately what you feel comfortable with as a range for your next city administrator.
Al?
When you kick out in the survey that you provided us, the metropolitan areas, Madison, Milwaukee area, Kenosha, Racine, South, when you do the math, it looks like the range is roughly 80,000 to 115,000. I know that's a $35,000 spread, but if you base it on experience and those type of things, that seems to be where the range is.
You said 80 to 115.
Now, are these salaries strictly salary plus benefit on top, or is that the whole package?
Strictly salaries.
Strictly salary.
We find that pretty much there's a narrow band for the benefits. They're pretty similar across communities.
And other than that one, they combined a couple positions. They're all city administrators, or are they city managers?
Fox Point's a city manager. The other ones are all city administrators.
Thank you.
And are you looking for a number this evening on this?
Yes.
We would like to put this on in a, in our announcement, which we have time to do, but we'd like some direction. If the mayor council decides they want to delay it a bit, that's fine, but we don't have that much time, So we think it's important, and I always, use this, is that we're competing, this is a bigger community, and we're competing against other states who have much higher salaries. I mean, Minnesota, Illinois, For example, their assistants are making 80 to 90,000. That's why we don't we don't get a lot of folks coming up here from Illinois, because, why? So we think it's important that you, I'll just give you my, 80,000 is a little low to show. I think it may turn people off right away. I'm not saying you have to go too much. I think your 115 is good, but 85 or 90, I think, would be a better lower number, if that's okay with the council. Obviously,
I have two comments. One with the Illinois versus Wisconsin. I don't know if there's a way to put in your announcement somewhere the low cost of living for this area, because it's significantly lower than Illinois. I did see your average housing cost in here. And personally, looking at the range here, I would suggest 85 to 110 or 115 is where I'm seeing, because we are currently, looks like dead last for cities bigger and smaller than us, which doesn't really invite, is not terribly inviting to candidates. Have a nice community, but that only goes so far.
Yep, right.
Well, we should be able to sell, like I say, the cost of the housing. And I look at some of these, you're not, what you get here for 200 and what you're gonna get there for 200, way different. Is there a way that we can kind of market
In the
ourselves?
announcement, I'll figure out what to put in there. That's it. I can highlight that as part of the announcement there and the profile.
Right now, I think we have a statement stating the median value of an owner-occupied house. This is a couple years old, 2018, is
It's the latest we can find, yeah.
121.
If there's a way to-
Anyone interested will, it's easy to start looking to see what's for sale in an area too, so they're interested. That will be a selling point here, though.
Yep. I'll make sure I highlight.
I would try to highlight the overall low cost of living.
Great point. So 85 to 110 is what I heard the mayor say, is that?
I was 85 to 110 or 115, but I mean, I'm certainly more comfortable at the 110. But does anyone like to make a motion to the salary range?
Well, I guess before we make a motion, so if, obviously 115, stating that is gonna be more attractive, it doesn't mean we're automatically gonna give them 115. So is it good from a marketing standpoint to put 115? And obviously that's not something, I mean, I don't know how the negotiation process quite looks. But if we say 115, I mean, it's not that I don't wanna say that we're lying, that we would not offer 115. But, it doesn't mean that if that's the higher range, we obviously don't have to be giving that out.
No, of course not. And again, it depends on the qualifications, as you know. If someone is, you really like them, but they don't have a lot of experience, you may start them at the lower, and they probably accept that. Someone who you think is a superstar, maybe 7 years, and but they're making 100 now, you may want to go up to 110 to 112, in that area. We usually never to your point, we usually don't ever give the folks the high end ever. We say we're gonna review your not we, but the council usually says, in 6 months, we'll review your salary, or 1 year, and give you an increase at that point.
Well, then, I guess I'd like to say that I think 115 shows that we are valuing this position, and if we get a superstar that is really good in grant writing, and they're gonna bring money to our city, again, money, these things are worth it. So does that mean, so I make a motion to have a salary range of 85,000 to 115,000 for the municipal administrator salary position of the city of Ripon. Is that appropriate, how I would get that?
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
One question. The other people that we're competing against right now, you mentioned 4 or 5 other cities. What kind of range of salary are we talking about with them?
I know, you want Jackson? I have Hortonville, which is, you know, where Hortonville is 2,800 people, and the current administrator's at 75. We went from 75 to 90 on that one, because it's a smaller community. And so, Jackson,
Jackson, I think, was 90 to 110.
Okay.
and that's in the
Jackson
metro
gets a
area.
lot of people that work in Milwaukee.
Yes.
That commute back and forth.
Yep.
Because Al knows, because we go down there for sports. There's a lot of high development housing areas down there.
Yes, there are.
Because of that fact.
Yep. So I think that's,
Kind of misleading.
I think that's very competitive, what we're looking at there then. Would you not agree with that? That's a fairly
Very
competitive.
much.
All right.
Any further discussion on the salary range motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the salary range for the administrator position of $85,000 to $115,000, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is our range.
As a follow-up, as part of the application process, we do ask the candidates to provide us with a salary history. That way we have a sense as far as what they're currently making, know what the population standard of living is, so we, from that information, gauge what's sort of possible as far as attracting and what salary we can go to.
So, conclusion, I'll be working with Lori to update some of this stuff, provide her some information, and Lori will distribute the survey, and using some of the other opportunities. So you've given the examples of what other communities have done for that section. Is there anything else?
One other question on the residency. Now, I really would like to see them be a resident here, personally. So, are other places, are they requiring a residency? I mean,
By state law, you cannot.
but you can't even do that.
What we always do is this, we say it's preferred. I think I said that, residency
Yeah,
preferred.
encouraged, but not required.
Encouraged. And because Ripon has, you know, they'd have to commute, someone would have to commute from Fond du Lac or Oshkosh, right? You're kind of your own city, you're not a suburb. Suburbs have a
Right.
hard time having folks come and move there, unless they're from out of state. Out of state people usually will move to the community. Or you can, you know, give them an incentive to do that.
Right.
Like I gave you the Port Edwards example. I think because of your location and you're kind of the center of your own world here, which is, you know, great. I think you have a better chance of people moving here than in a suburban area.
As Chris mentioned, a couple of strategies. One is to offer them two different salary. One if you live in the community, one if you don't, as a little bit of an incentive.
Is that legal to do that?
Oh, sure.
Okay, all right.
Other communities have offered a higher moving expense. If they move into the community, they don't get as much, or they don't get any expense. The other concern, as Chris mentioned, statewide, there's a law that you cannot require paid public officials to live in your community. Some communities have elected, there's a provision that if you're an emergency worker, emergency responder, you have to live within 20 miles of your border, 15 miles of your border. Some communities, because the city administrator is part of the emergency government chain of command, have classified the city administrator position as an emergency employee, and at least as a result, got the employee to live within that 15-mile radius.
Do you have that in your ordinances now? That certain emergency people have to live within?
No, we don't.
Not required. Police, what do you do, chief, with police? Nothing. Okay.
We used to have it for the fire district. They had to be within 7.5 miles of the fire hall, and that was deleted.
So we can certainly consider that as part of a contract.
And we always encourage, when we recruit, we always encourage that. We always lived in it, for the most part, I have. I've lived in the community I've served forever, and I think you have for the most part as well.
I have. Interestingly, just went through the process of hiring Sauk County Administrator in the last 3 weeks. One of the top 20 questions the county board selected, their selection committee, one of the questions was about residency. And the candidates were very candid. Some were moving from outside the area, so as Chris mentioned, as long as you're moving, go ahead and move into the community. But we did have a very successful sort of rising star county administrator for 2 counties further north. And he indicated, because his wife had a great job, he was planning on commuting an hour and 15 minutes each way, each day. And unfortunately, they took a pass on him because he was honest in saying, I won't move to your community. So that's one question that sounds like we should cover as part of the interview process.
Well, it's hard to be a strong part of your community when you don't live here.
Right.
Like with our city administrator, Lori's been good about being out and about in the community, involved in activities and that. And if it wasn't for the fact that she was here.
I will say my basement got flooded just like everybody else's. It was really easier to work with the people when we had that, so we encourage it. Well, thank you so much for your time this evening.
It was nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
I'll get in touch with you tomorrow. Would you like me to move these back?
Thanks again.
Good night.
Thank you.
Lori, did you want us to send our city administrator assessment rankings directly to them, or do you want us to get them to
We're
you?
going to send it to Lori,
Yeah, I can compile them
Not
and
a
send
new
them all
email.
together. Yeah.
just with that part of it.
All right.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
While we're on this topic, I think we need to empower a group from the council to stay in communication with these people. They're doing it by committee or waiting for each council meeting to do these type of things. We may find ourselves behind the 8 ball on something. If we're able to monitor how things are going, certainly can't make any decisions, but can keep the ball rolling on this may be beneficial to do, rather again than trying to, we almost didn't have a quorum this evening. So perhaps that would be a strategy we would like to look at yet tonight.
So are you looking at forming a committee?
I'm saying that the council empowers the mayor, the city administrator, the city attorney, and the council president to stay in communication with this organization, keep the process moving forward.
Is that an official motion?
Motion that. I agree with Mr. Schrader on it.
Okay.
I will second.
And again, I think the clarification that Al made, that this isn't intended to be a voting process, is just to make sure that things like this keep moving back and forth and through the hands of the Common Council, and I think it's a very intelligent way to proceed. So that
Lori
there
may
isn't-
say, Al, would you give,
Yeah,
you know, would you give Howie a call, because we haven't gotten his information back yet, see if you can spur him on to do that. I'm just picking on you.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
But to keep everything moving. And there may be other discussions we need to have with this group going forward. At least it ensures that we have a representative group that can continue to keep the process steadily moving forward.
Yeah, the things like drafting the contract and particulars in the contract, that'll all come back to the body, but the idea that we keep it rolling and flowing without them saying, well, we got to take this to the full body. You're going to see it all. You're going to make the final decision, but I think what Al's saying makes sense.
Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Any other comments on this topic before we move on?
I want to say thanks again to Mr. Schrader for putting all this together, and giving us the opportunity to look through and decide on who we're going to bring up here to help us assist in finding a replacement for Lori. So, again, Mr. Schrader, thank you.
Part of my job.
Can I also make a question of the new committee that was formed? I think one of the ways that we can be most successful critically in the beginning is how they get the information out. And I know they threw out some areas where they could, advertise and things like that. Could you then, as our newly appointed committee, make sure that you ask for places that they are, so that we do know that they are meeting the expectations that they set out? Because again, if we just assume, well, that's a big assumption.
Yeah, no, I'm certain that Lori will keep everybody in the loop in terms of
Thank you.
those type of decisions that are more procedural than substantive is the idea. That we don't just get stuck somewhere and go, well, you didn't give me the final draft of that, what is good about the city, or what you're looking for as projects. That needs to come through, get filtered out. You'll get a draft of it, but the motion that you pass this evening keeps that rolling. And it'll call for you perhaps individually to say, I want to tweak that sentence, or I want to tweak that. You get that communication back to Lori and we keep moving. That's kind of where we're at.
And I guess what I'm suggesting is, it's not so much, I'm not sure we have to make a decision anymore on that point. It's more of holding them accountable. And I guess I'm asking, if you, as the newly appointed committee, can you ask these questions of them to make sure that they are holding up their word, which I'm sure they will.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the resolution writing off certain delinquent ambulance accounts deemed uncollectible.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Al, seconded by Howard. Any discussion on this resolution? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the resolution for writing off certain delinquent ambulance accounts deemed uncollectible, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Next is a resolution writing off certain uncollectible water and sewer accounts.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Ben, seconded by John. Any discussion on this one? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the resolution writing off certain uncollectible water and sewer accounts, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Next item on the agenda is the COVID policy. You should have all gotten a revised for tonight's meeting copy, which does include the changes that were requested at the last meeting. Al?
Mayor, on page number, or item number 8, travel restrictions, item A, it is strongly recommended that employees postpone or cancel personal, non-essential, and then there's a period. I believe the word travel may need to be inserted there. It would be on page 5.
You are correct. It does look like
Just something I caught.
Mayor, I'm not seeing anything in here halting anybody from wearing sunglasses and any hat wear aside from religious aspects from that angle. As covering your whole face does take away any identifiers, which, as we know, there was a store on Marquezine that was recently robbed. Identifier was all hidden by the face mask and the glasses and the headwear. So I don't know if you want to go at that angle from there as well. That maybe we should look into that.
So preventing people from covering,
Unfortunately, you have to think about it. I mean, if it's a bank, it does not allow that.
Would
Which
that
is a
affect
practice
our
that has been put in
employees?
place by banks.
this is a policy just for our employees while they're at work.
Okay.
do any of our departments have issues with
I mean, if
people
that's the
hiding their
case-
identity?
If that's the case, then so be it, but I'm just saying in public,
And this is
think that's
just
just something
applying
that was-
to city employees while on duty.
I'm just asking if you would think that that would be
I
feasible to put
personally
in there.
don't,
If everybody's comfortable with not being in there,
I personally don't see the need for such language in there.
And I just want to
That's
make
why I
sure
bring it
that this is related to COVID, right? I mean, there could be something different to your point on perhaps safety, or if that's what you're getting at. You're using it, the case that there was a robbery. This, I mean, and COVID is about safety, but I'm talking about public health safety, right? This is what we're focused on here, correct?
I'm just bringing it up that if it's good enough for a bank to do it, then maybe we should look into it as well and have a discussion about it. That's why I'm bringing it here.
I just don't see where city employees would be concealing their identity while at work.
Again, that's why I'm bringing it up here. Otherwise, I think looks fine to me.
Would there be a motion to approve this as written with the one correction of adding the word travel in section 8A?
Make a motion, we approve.
I'll second it.
Been moved by David, seconded by Ben. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving this version of the city COVID-19 plan, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Let's see, project updates and staff reports. Lori,
I have nothing.
Public Works, Police Department, John?
I had a question for Mike on, there was a post by your secretary about no commingling of leaves and grass, or, I mean, when a person vacuums their yard or, bags it, you're
Yeah,
gonna
we
get
just
some
don't wanna
amount of
see,
grass.
what we see sometimes is they'll go ahead and they'll do their lawn. They'll put the lawn clippings on and then they'll cover it up with leaves.
Right, okay, so you're not saying if there's grass
We
with the
know
leaves?
that somebody is gonna use their lawnmower with a bagger on, that's gonna get dumped out there. We're gonna pick that up.
Yeah, okay.
We do see out there, garden things that are on the curb, we won't pick that up, okay? We've never picked that up, is my understanding. So, pine needles or leaves, those are acceptable. Grass clippings are not considered leaves, but we do the best we can to pick them up.
If it's just incidental, mixed in,
It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
we had that discussion today, John. But just flat out, somebody doing their lawn and putting their grass clippings on there, be a flag. Sometimes the guys will pick it up, sometimes they won't.
So if you rake your yard with a lawnmower with a bagger, that's acceptable?
Yeah, we looked at some today and, there was discussion about it and I says, they're doing it with their lawn, they're bagging it and they're putting it on the curb. I do the best we can to pick that up and stuff like that.
And for the communities.
Good question.
thank you.
And for the community's sake, what's the time frame where you do the pickups? Starts the 15th?
It starts tomorrow morning, should be out by 7, 3 trucks, 3 zones. And so the way the system works is there's 3 zones, 1, 2, and 3. I think they're posted on, I think we posted them either on the city site or we might have posted them on the Facebook page. There's a route that they follow, and every day they're handed a sheet. So whoever's in zone 1 gets the route, okay? They follow the route. When they come back at the end of the day, they highlight where they were. Those sheets are dated, and I pick them up in the morning, take them over to Lisa. That way we know where the trucks are, okay? Resident calls in and says, you know, I'm at this location, when do you think they'll be there? Well, they should be there shortly, or you're probably still a couple days out, depends on how much is on the curb. That way we ensure that everybody gets picked up, okay? So we know exactly where the trucks are, residents, how many times they've been picked up. We'll know that, what's going on there, okay?
Barring snowfall, do you have an end date?
Don't even talk about snow.
Nice job, Mr.
Don't bring that up. That
Did
was,
you really?
that's behind us. You know, our time frame is mid-June, which it's tomorrow, to the third Friday of November.
Third Friday of November.
Yep.
It can't be any worse than last year. I think you got 3
I
days of
know,
vacuuming.
we did everything we could last year, and some communities didn't even get picked up, so, you know, everything's ready to go. Check Facebook is really where a lot of our information's coming out, John. And, you know, call in, you know, if people want to know. I mean, we're unable to tell you when they're going to get to the end of the route. What really helps us get through this system is if the resident can get it on the terrace, keep it on the terrace, keep it piled up, all right, and we're able to shoot through it. If it's spread all over, it becomes more work, and it just delays the people farther down, okay? So, I think I'm hoping we will have a better year than last year. Barring we don't get any snow.
Hard not to.
I don't know, it is 2020.
Yeah, anything can happen this year, man. Anything else, John?
Nope, that's
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of keeping the leaves on the terrace, my understanding is that it's also important because, of course, if we get rain, water, that could wash the leaves away, that could make them stick to the road, making them harder to pick up. But also, my understanding, leaves are one of the single most producers of phosphorus for our water system, and we are part of a Green Lake watershed. And so I think that it's extremely important for our residents to realize how important, if we love our lake, Green Lake, and we love to recreate there, we want to keep it healthy, taking care of the leaves right now is something personally that everyone could do. Is there anything more you want to say about that?
You know, they're gonna get onto the street, there's no question. The trees are hanging over, they blow around the leaves, you know, things like that. But if we can reduce the piling into the streets, that was one of the things I seen the first year, is we were just spreading them out all over in the street, and then it becomes very difficult to pick up. Now, some communities do require it at the curb line. Okay, we don't. And it's been that way, I don't know, forever. So, you know, they're gonna get in the street, we're gonna get to them, all right? First round, we're not manicuring the terrace, okay? We're getting through, we're trying to get the pile off. There will be some left behind. That makes room for the resident to get more out to the terrace, so we can come back around, you know? And we'll do the best as we progress down to get a little better job done, okay?
And I appreciate the Facebook page getting information out. Perhaps one idea is to share, I know Green Lake Association put out a little sort of info video about, you know, waking up and taking care of your lawn. Perhaps that's an idea to share on the page. I know it's well.
There was some stuff on there about some of that, I believe,
Great.
for that.
Thank you.
The other thing we posted today is Final County is having a cleanup, household cleanup, such as chemicals, paints, and things like that. Check the website out. I think it's October 31st. So as we start to see those things come in, we'll start passing that information along. So it's our first take at this information stuff, and we're getting a lot of hits on it. So I think it's starting to grab and get that information out there.
So you're posting most of this stuff on Facebook, not on the city webpage?
It's mostly on Facebook, yes, but
Because there are a lot of elderly people in my district that don't Facebook, so they don't get this information. They look at the city website.
yep, and a lot of this stuff is on the city website.
We need to
also,
make sure that it
and
does get
We'll make
there.
sure that those two paths cross, okay? I'll
Okay,
mention
perfect.
that tomorrow to Lisa, okay?
Thank you.
Anything else?
Doing a good job, man. Thanks for everything.
No, everything's looking good, we're doing great.
I
No,
know,
All right, thank you.
Don't encourage you.
That's it for the staff reports. I just have a couple of brief comments, just an update on the COVID situation in town. COVID numbers in Ripon have once again increased drastically. In the past week, our 7-day average has doubled, and also in the last week, we've had 4 of the worst days since the pandemic started. We all must socially distance, wash our hands regularly, limit activities to just the essentials, and wear face coverings. I beg everyone to think of your friends, family, and neighbors, and do your part to slow the spread of the disease. I also want to give a special mention to the men and women of our EMS, police, and fire departments. They have all been working hard to help community members that may have been infected with COVID. So on my behalf and the community, I say thank you for your service. And on the elections, just a reminder that in-person early voting starts next week on Tuesday, October 20th. And if you have an absentee ballot, you can drop them off in person in City Hall in the office or in the drop box located across from the dispatch window just inside the entrance. And as always, be safe, stay healthy, and remember to be kind, considerate, and respectful to others. Any comments or agenda items for future meeting suggestions from the council?
Can we make an announcement here to remind everyone, if they did not fill out the census, it is really down to the deadline, and there is funding that is attached to that we could qualify for as a city that is related to the census. So just a sort of a plea to all individuals living in Ripon to please fill out the census if you haven't already. And then I guess another thing I will just add, I don't know, obviously I don't think it's worthy of an agenda item, but I have had constituents contact me being concerned and being interested as to what the city is deciding for trick-or-treating. And my understanding is a decision has been made that we are moving forward with that, and that certain individuals of the council were contacted. I don't know in the future if it's worth, putting something out, because I think that individuals that contacted me, for example, they didn't know that a decision had already been made, and would like to be able to be, perhaps provide input. And this is another example. I could imagine, since it sounds like we are moving forward with it, there was one individual that does work in healthcare, and she's concerned that even when she has her lights off, for example, typically I think we start at 3 p.m., and she says at 2:30 p.m., there are people already ringing her doorbell when her light is not on, and that she'll have about 700 to 1,000 people coming to her door on Watson Street. And so, working in public or in healthcare, this person was greatly concerned about the situation. And I guess all I'm saying is this is another example of if we had some type of accessible communication, perhaps a Facebook page for the city, we could put the message out to say that please, particularly this year, if an individual does not have their light on, please respect that, that they, will not be participating. Again, I don't know, I know from last meeting it said that we put out press releases. I don't know if this warrants a press release about being safe, about trick-or-treating. I know we have some time yet, but I know it's on people's minds.
Well, I will answer to your question there. The city doesn't technically sponsor trick-or-treating. However, our stance is that we are not preventing it. However, we are certainly not promoting it. And the CDC has stated that traditional trick-or-treating is a high-risk activity. And so if you were to ask me or Ripon Main Street Chamber of Commerce, we all have copies of the CDC's designations on what activities are high risk, and that does include trick-or-treating as high risk. So personally, I would not send my child out trick-or-treating this year, but it is still a personal decision. And as the city does not sponsor it, we can't prevent it. Or technically, I suppose we could, but we are not preventing it.
And I believe the city has never officially ever sponsored trick-or-treating. It has been on our calendar in the past as a activity for a certain date. This year, it's the 25th of October between the hours of 3 and 5. And we've taken so much away, and this is just my opinion, we've taken so much away from everybody. If you're smart, wear a mask. It's gonna be tough to social distance, but you're outside. If you're afraid of it, don't go. But the main thing is, be safe, be smart.
All right, at this point, we will adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin statutes 19.85, section 1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whether competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The topic will be an industry track agreement with Wisconsin and Southern Railroad LLC, and the council will also review minutes from the February 24th, 2020 closed session for accuracy.
Move to adjourn the closed session.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. And we will be having the closed session in this room once
What's wrong with the other room?
Why can't we go into the chamber?
we're keeping spacing.